good to see everybody. Thanks for coming over and be a part of this dialogue today. Obviously, there's a lot that's going on currently right now in this administration and with the conversation about Title 42. Let me be very clear on something. Title 42 was always intended to be a temporary authority to be able to deal with the pandemic issues, always. The problem has been that I've asked questions of the administration for the last 8 months in particular. What are you going to do when it actually ends? What are you going to do when it actually ends? Their response has been, well, we have a 6-point plan that we've already implemented to be able to deal with this after it ends. Their plan clearly is not working, and so my question has been, what is your plan? So far, they've not been able to do this. They've not been able to resolve what the key issues are for immigration and the increase. Let me just give you a couple of clear, blunt statements. When you incentivize illegal activity, you get more illegal activity, period. It's not hard. What they've done is they've taken the dollars that have been allocated to them for enforcement, and they've instead used those dollars for processing, to speed up the processing issues that they had at the border, so that as thousands of people cross the border, those thousands of people could move into the interior country faster to make room for thousands more to be able to come in. They've also transitioned now to putting individuals on parole as soon as they cross the border. Well, that does two things. Once they transition and put into parole, they're given a work permit that same day. And so people are illegally crossing the border, getting a work permit immediately as they cross the border, and then they're put in line with ICE. So this is the second part of this that many people are not talking about. ICE, that used to be used for enforcement within the interior of the country, is now being used for processing people that are illegally coming into the country. The administration has changed their mission to not deporting people that are illegally into the country, but processing people illegally in the country farther into the country. That's a dramatic shift. What they've also done is the administration over and over again in the last 2 years, they have requested fewer beds for ICE, less money for detention, and they continue to try to defund ICE, at the same time change the mission of those that are remaining in ICE to do less. What does this look like? Well, we've got more than 2 million people have illegally crossed the border. Of that more than 2 million people that have illegally crossed the border, about 1.3 million of those individuals that have illegally crossed the border have been actually put into the interior of the country. So if you want to run the round numbers of this and what's actually happening, I tried to run some basic math on this. Of the ICE deportations versus this administration actually releasing people into the country, right now we have about 3,600 people a day that are being released into the country. 3,600 people a day. ICE is actually deporting 189 people a day. That is day after day after day. And when people talk about what is the crisis that's happening across the country, it is this administration is facilitating the rapid release of people into the country and is ignoring the ICE responsibility of actually people leaving the country. I'm going to give a Christmas gift to the administration later today. I'm bringing 2 different bills to the floor and asking unanimous consent. One of them deals with the Title 42 authority. The administration already, when a court stepped in and said, we're not ready for this, asked for weeks extension of that, and now even in the filing that was done yesterday by the administration, they said, no, we're still not ready. Can you give us more time on this? I'd like to give them a longer extension of time and to keep that same authority in place on it. That pandemic authority is being used for multiple other programs, but this administration is saying we don't want to actually do border enforcement, but we do want to do other areas. We want to maintain that same authority that's there. The second thing is the administration continues to talk about the asylum rules, and they seem to be playing with this issue that's out there of if people travel to multiple different countries and then they finally get to the United States and request asylum, that's not asylum, that's economic opportunity. And I'm all in. We are the greatest nation in the world. I completely understand why people want to legally come to the United States. But right now this administration is encouraging people to literally travel from all over the world to illegally come to the United States. So the simple process that is, if you're traveling to multiple different countries before you come here and you didn't request asylum in that process before you came here in any of the previous countries, you can't request it here as well. It's not new. That idea has been around for a very long time, and it's time we actually implement that kind of idea, that we continue to allow asylum seekers to be able to come to this country that are truly seeking asylum, but for people that are actually just coming for economic opportunity, I understand why they would want to come. Let's go through the legal pathways to be able to do that as well. One quick reminder of this. Jay Johnson, 2019, made the statement that every morning he would get up in the morning, and the first thing he would get is his intelligence briefing, and then he would look at the number of people that illegally crossed the day before. That was how he started every single day. And he knew if it was more than 1,000, it was going to be a bad day. Right now, today, we have more than 9,000 people a day illegally crossing our border. 9,000 a day. During the time of Jay Johnson, during that surge time period, we had a little over 500,000 people illegally cross our border in a year. A little over 500,000 in a year. Under this administration, we have over 500,000 in 2 months. And it's continuing to accelerate. This is a very real crisis that for whatever reason many people are ignoring and saying it's old news. But as the rise of fentanyl comes into our country, as the crisis continues to build in the humanitarian crisis on our southern border, please understand, we understand full well the pull factor. The pull factor is this administration's policies. This was not happening under the Obama administration. It is happening under this administration. The law is the same. The difference is this administration is not enforcing the law, and they're encouraging more and more illegal immigration, and it needs to stop, and we need to address that today.